Yes, I came back from my first tour in Germany and was at the Armor Career Course in Fort Knox. And at that time, the Vietnam War, this was 1965-66, was heating up. There was every indication that most of us were going to end up in Vietnam. So we had decisions to make. Similar decisions were made in World War I, World War II. So I had met my wife years before. She was from Blue Mountain, from Orangeburg. And so we met again, decided to get married. Then several months later, I ended up going to Vietnam. When I was a young officer, I didn't have the opportunity to really understand what is this all about. We had something called the Gulf of Tonkin issue that the president used as a means to get us in. But I was a captain then, I was a company commander. I was more concerned about keeping my troops alive. I trained them very well. I had learned that in Europe. My commanders I had worked with before in Europe, so I had a good idea of what it was going to take. We fought every day just about in Vietnam, and I was very proud that I was able to keep most of my men alive and still accomplish our mission. But I always wondered about what I used to call, what I called later, the clarity in terms of the mission. What were we doing here? When I left my first tour in '67, I went back for my master's degree in Chicago, and I focused my master's work on Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution, which is the Commander-in-Chief Clause, and I really focused on how do we get involved in Vietnam. So I traced the whole chronology of how we got involved, how presidents commit forces in undeclared wars. And I found out that it was very shaky what we did. That was a great lesson as a young captain and then major to understand that political clarity is extremely important. I never forgot that lesson. And when I went into Bosnia, I fought for that clarity, and I got it, and later on in other operations. So it had a great impact on me. And going back to a college after that, Loyola University, was very helpful in giving me the time to really understand how we get involved in wars. I really was asked to go back to develop a new curriculum for the Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC. I'm a West Point graduate, but they asked me to come back and design this new approach. As you may recall, in the mid-'60s, a lot of anti-war demonstrations. A lot of it was focused on ROTC, on college campuses. And so my job was to try to look at changing the curriculum to have a more academic focus on how we really teach. This time we called it MS1 and MS2, freshmen and sophomores, before they commit as juniors and seniors. So I designed the new curriculum. It was, to me, great learning experience, and it really went over well at Loyola, with all the strikes going on against ROTC, shutting down the school. My class was not. They came to and all the dissidents came. So I was able to really understand that dissent is not disloyalty, that dissent is part of our, but I wanted to confront them. I wasn't going to say, therefore I agree with everything you say, but how to have that dialogue. I even taught in something called the Free University, which was another interesting, they shut down the school, but they opened the Free University. They wanted me to teach it. And with Black Panthers and Students for a Democratic Society, as well as my cadets, and I did for a year. It was very interesting.